It's R&R in the morning. You lucky devils chose correctly. It's 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star. He is Rudy J. I'm Rob Thompson.
Yes, sir.
Excited about the next guest. He is the only Juilliard-trained talk radio host in the world.
That's impressive.
He is the finest musician ever to talk football that I've ever been around. His name is Jason Fitz. You can catch him live on 1250 with the Fitz and Harry getting together. Hey, we're glad to have you aboard, Jason. Welcome on to San Antonio Sports Star. How's your morning?
Hey, man, my morning's spectacular. Thanks for having me. And every time I think about the Juilliard stuff, all I realize is that I peaked when I was about 13 years old. That's what I realized is that, I was doing things at 13 that I can't do at 45. I don't know how I feel about that, but that's fine. It's fine.
How do you go from Juilliard to radio, man?
Well,
what the hell?
He's on tour with Perry forever. He wanted to get up early and just hang around some stinky radio dudes for a while.
There is something about stinky radio dudes that I really like. I'm lucky to have lived two very, very, very blessed lives. Like it's not lost on me, but yeah, I can't imagine. Sometimes I think back to like when I was I started a podcast where I had my music buddies talking sports guys talking music, and I grew that podcast to get to where I am now. And every once in a while I look back and I think, man, they used to make fun of me so much when I would have all this recording gear, setting it up backstage. And I'm like, guys, I got to do a podcast that like 18 people are going to listen to today. And now, when I go see my buddies on tour, they're always like, man, we're making fun of you, but it sure worked.
Dude.
So, I'm very lucky.
Fitz, I always tell people, you want to know who your friends are, start a podcast. Because you can't pay them to listen, man. So
you are so right. And like the weirdest thing to me is like I remember I had one podcast where like I was having all my buddies on and I was networking with everybody, and like I had like Fall Out Boy and Charlie Daniels and Adam Schefter on the same podcast.
Wow. And
it was huge. I had like, and this is 10 years ago when podcasts weren't really what they are now, and I had like 40,000 listens, and I was like, I am amazing. And the next week I was like, I don't need any guests. I'm just going to talk in a microphone because they will stick with me. I had 12 listens total the next week. 12. Not 40, at 12. So,
Three of them were mom.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like not to mention me about 7 times clicking on it being like, why is nobody listening? So, it was a beast back then. It's an even bigger beast now. So I'm very lucky.
Jason Fitz, you can catch his stuff on 1250, 11 to 2. He's with Harry Douglas, the largest guy in radio, I guess maybe than Marcus Spears. Hey, when you look at the Super Bowl coming up, we were just having this debate. Is this a truly national game in your eyes? Is this when you see Kansas City, Philadelphia, it doesn't have the weight of a New England or other big time franchise kind of things, but is this a national game or is it local fandom that's paying a lot of attention to a national kind of spotlight?
I think this is a reminder of the power of the NFL because you're right. Like in any other sport, Philly versus Kansas City for a championship, we'd be sitting there saying, I don't know, does anybody care?
Right.
But because we can make a Jalen Hurts versus Patrick Mahomes, everybody cares, right? So, like, it's amazing how the NFL is it's a juggernaut. There is no other sport that wouldn't be concerned. And we actually talked about this on the show last week coming in. Like, think about a Final Four that was Buffalo and Cincinnati, or not Buffalo in the Final Four, but, Cincinnati, Kansas City, Philadelphia. Like, we're not talking about huge national markets across the board anywhere. So, it's crazy that the NFL doesn't have to worry about the same thing every other sport worries about because realistically, we tell these stories so much, everybody gets invested in it. It's the ultimate reality show. Who needs the Real Housewives when you've got the NFL? So that's what they bank on every year.
Jason, how many more rings does Patrick Mahomes have to win before I can, without getting destroyed by Twitter, say he's the GOAT? Because I want to say it now, but I know the rules and I don't want to move the goalpost for Mahomes, but I think we can see with our eyes that he's doing stuff we've never seen and he could possibly be the best to ever do it.
Yeah, well, I think if we were just looking at his ability and his highlight ability, he is the GOAT. Like, that's already happened. The thing is, we become like championship obsessed as a society, so we make everything about how many championships you've won. And so it's an interesting conversation to me that, LeBron versus MJ is always going to be,
right.
Jordan never lost a championship. It's like, yeah, but he lost some Eastern Conference Finals. Do we not care about that? Like, so it's funny how we just we picked and choose that somewhere along the way. We made everything about championships. So, realistically, I think that Mahomes is going to have to get to like 4 Super Bowl wins before anybody will allow him to be in the Brady combo. But if you're asking me right now, 5 straight AFC championship games, 2 Super Bowls, or 3 Super Bowls now coming in. Like, this is a huge moment for just the proof of concept that Andy Reid and Mahomes are the new Belichick and Brady.
Ooh.
And they're doing it in a way that is unstoppable. Like, this was supposed to be the down year. They're paying Mahomes now. You're not supposed to be able to pay Mahomes. They got rid of Tyreek Hill. This was supposed to be the year that they took a step back. And instead, they're right back in the Super Bowl with young guys contributing and Mahomes on one leg, pogo sticking around, beating everybody. Like, it reminds you that right now, and he's 26, right? So you got what, like another 10, 12 years of this? Like, this is going to be an era of dominance by the time it's all said and done that I think surpasses Brady and Belichick. And we'll all be able to say that we watched it. It'll be that whole Bill Russell will be Tom Brady and Michael Jordan will be Patrick Mahomes, because we're seeing Jordan-like things out of him when he's on the field.
That's Jason Fitz, co-host of Fitz and Harry. Catch him live right here on ESPN 1250, 11 to 2. You know, the game itself is going to be, you know, we're eyeballing it with every day a little bit more. But, you know, we're Dallas Cowboy country down here, and we're the news looking for another offensive coordinator. In your mind, looking at what the Cowboys did under Kellen Moore, offense was certainly there. What should McCarthy be looking for? Does he need a play caller? And what kind of offense do you think he should be running with a Dak Prescott at quarterback?
Yeah, I think this is a ultimate test, because if McCarthy's going to take play calling back on, then what you've got is, that to me just screams of desperation. You don't trust anybody. You know you're on your last leg. You're going to take everything on your own plate and then try and figure it out. I have never seen, and I've talked to a bunch of guys on campus at ESPN to try and everybody agrees. I've never seen a quarterback just take a huge step back, regress at this level at the basics. And that's the weirdest part of what we saw this year. Like, as Orlovsky has broken down brilliantly on film over and over and over again on NFL Live, but I've also talked to Ryan Clark, talked to Rex about it, I talked to Harry about it, I talked to Keyshawn about it. Like, all of these guys are telling you the same thing. Like, he stopped reading the field well. So you've got to sit down and you've got to find a quarterback communicator that can come in and say, hey, what went wrong in our love language here? Like, what's it going to take for you to feel more comfortable reading defenses? Because it's not just the interception. It's the flat-out wrong reads on those interceptions or late throws on wrong reads that really cost him. So I think you need a quarterback communicator more than you need anything else. And then, you know, realistically, we live in a weapons world, right? You got to have great wide receivers. I understand, as a Raiders fan, why Amari Cooper was not part of the long-term plans for the Dallas Cowboys. I've said this a million times, but I actually asked Jack Del Rio one day. I said, what went wrong with Amari in Oakland? And Jack said, man, if I knew that, I probably still have my job. There is a disconnect for Amari in some locker rooms at sometimes, and once you lose him, you can't get him back. I understand why Amari Cooper was not going to work anymore for the Cowboys, but they have to replace that. They have to replace that level of productivity of what they thought they had when they had him. So I think you need to get better weapons. You need to get a better quarterback communicator. And if you're McCarthy, man, if you're taking that all on yourself, I don't love desperation when it comes to head coaching.
Jason, fair or foul on guys like Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, who a part of their game is running the ball? Is it fair or foul that we question whether teams should pay them because they could, quote unquote, get hurt?
Foul. And it's wildly foul because of one. I'll give you the one big counter argument to that. Lamar's injuries have all come in the pocket, not on designated runs, and nobody in the entire NFL runs more recklessly at the quarterback position than, Josh Allen. So why do we not sit there and have this? Like, nobody's sitting there saying you can't pay him, right? Like, nobody's sitting there saying you can't. Like, it is amazing how we pick and choose who we want to put that narrative on and who we don't want to put that narrative on. Like, Lamar is a 26-year-old former MVP that is absolutely, like, most teams would line up to have Lamar. So, you know, I think it's wild how we've taken that conversation and said, well, you know, he runs the football. Well, Baltimore's also designed an offense around that particular skill set, but he ran a pro-style offense under Petrino at Louisville, and he did so well doing that when I was hosting a college football show, they actually came in that year. That was my first year hosting anything at ESPN. We were doing a college football show on ESPNU. And the producers came in one day and they said, no Lamar this week. We're so tired of Lamar highlights, we can't put him in. That's how good he was at Louisville, running a pro-style offense. And now we're like, oh, I don't know, he gets hurt in the pros. I mean, he got hurt in the pocket. So realistically, I think we look at these guys, and at the end of the day, as long as you've got a great quarterback that can win you games, pay him. And that it's that simple. And the sooner you pay your quarterback, the more ahead of it you get. Because, I mean, my God, these markets going to be outpriced. Like, Justin Herbert has played one playoff game, and ESPN.com this a couple of weeks ago put an article out saying that he's going to be part of the $50 million per year plus club when he gets his new contract this year. So, like, we sit here and talk about Lamar's playoff failings, but we've seen Justin Herbert in one playoff game, and he's going to get $50 million plus a year. Like, that's just the new going rate. So you might as well, like, you got a guy, pay him now, get ahead of it, and then get out of it if you need to.
Jason Fitz joining us here on San Antonio's Sports Star. You just let us know you're a Raider fan. We kind of knew that. Okay, Raider fan, who's going to be your quarterback next year? Who's going to be the quarterback for the 49ers as well? Let's throw a big net out.
You know what? I honestly think the Brady to 49ers thing makes sense, but I will say there's a variable here, like a real life, like anybody listening that's ever gone through a divorce or a breakup, like the concept, we have to remember there's a human being at Tom Brady that has kids in school in Florida and a kid in New York. Is he going to want to live in San Francisco away from them for basically 5 consecutive months? Like, that's a human element. None of us know. If he wants to play football somewhere, it's going to be where he can win a Super Bowl right now. That's San Francisco, right? Like that roster, it gives him the best chance to go out and do that. So with this injury, it actually makes sense to bring in Brady. For the Raiders, I think, honestly, they're going to move up and try and aggressively take somebody in the draft. Like, there is this new car envy. Like, I always term it as that. Like, when you see your friend buy a new car, and you're like, this has had new car envy over Mahomes and Herbert for years. And so you look at it and say, well, I don't want to be mediocre at the position or pretty good at the position when I have to take on great at the position. And great at the position is not acquirable for the Raiders right now in free agency. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him move up in the draft and try and take either Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, one of the top 2. And then, if they need a bridge, Jimmy G makes a lot of sense because he knows that offense and he knows Josh McDaniels well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Jimmy G as the quarterback for a year while they bridge the gap because McDaniels doesn't want to lose a bunch of games with a rookie and then get fired. So that's what makes the most sense. But, it's interesting. And guys, I keep hearing it from people I trust. Keep a real eye on Derek Carr to the Houston Texans. I've had multiple people tell me that the Texans do not love any of the quarterbacks, that they're going to go best player available at the top of the draft, and that they would love somebody that's easy to you got Derek Carr's a good dude. It's easy to put a good dude at quarterback and say, hey, we're addressing the rest of it, and we're going to figure out quarterback when the time is right instead of reaching for one that we don't love. So I keep hearing it from people. I've heard it from the day Derek Carr put out his statement. One of our insiders hit me up and said, hey, he's going to the Texans. So I just keep hearing it. So, keep an eye on it.
Well, David Carr might have PTSD from being with the Texans.
Is DeMeco Ryans the right coach for Derek Carr and the Texans?
Well, here's the crazy thing. DeMeco was on the staff with the Texans when David was the quarterback there. So, is there or was with the Texans when David was the quarterback there. So there's a relationship between Ryans and the Carr family. And Derek was they got pictures of him as a kid running around with Texans jerseys on, right? Like, they can market that easily. DeMeco is going to be just watch him on the sidelines. Like, anybody that can absolutely, like, you can feel it. You can tangibly feel a great coach right now in the NFL, I think, when you just watch the relationship with the players and the way they communicate. Because I think coaching is more and more head coaching is about, do players understand me and do I understand them? Like, is there a personal relationship they'll invest in? You watch the way DeMeco is communicating even right before the snap when the TV cameras are on him. Watch the All-22 where you can see him on the sideline jumping up and down, see the way players react to him. I think he is a home run hire for somebody because he is a genuine communicator that people will buy into. It's the same thing, like, is in a much different way personality-wise, but, like, Mike McDaniel is going to be a great coach because guys love him. Like, they want to play for him. I think that is such a huge factor in life. And we make football complicated, but, like, I don't care if you work on radio. I don't care if you work at a factory. I don't care, like, if you work making spreadsheets. Like, when you love the boss that you work for, you love coming to work. It's different. And the grind of football, I think we undervalue how much just the ability to love coming to work matters when you got a great leader.
Love listening to Fitz. You'll get busy today at 11 o'clock. You'll be with Harry. Hey, man, thanks for stopping. Are you going to be in Glendale?
Awesome.
You gonna be at the game?
I don't. No. Come on now. I moved up in time.
Come on, big time Disney guy.
I keep asking people to make me their plus one. I've offered to be packed in a suitcase. I keep trying. So we'll see. If you just see somebody like low hat, sunglasses, pretending he's not there, but just like creeping around, that means I got somebody to drag me into the thing. But so far, I don't think I'm making the list out there. But have fun for me instead, boys.
Well, if you do, come by the table. Bring the fiddle, man. You can just work out in the front room.
Come on. I'm all in for it. Yeah.
Let's do it. Jason Fitz right here on San Antonio Sports Star. Man, it's always a pleasure. Take care of yourself.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks.
Jason Fitz, catch him at 11 to 2 on 1250 AM. That's ESPN San Antonio Sports Star.